a pony knowledge by. Oh, better. I got a place where winning ain't tough to do. You wanna be cool, stable too. Your horse racing fantasy come true. But no, stable too.
Download the Stable Duel app and play today.
We are back, and a very happy new year to all of you out there, and it's time for this weekend in Stable Duel. You are entering, it's kind of like the Twilight Zone. It's the no chalk zone right here with Matt DeSantis, with Barry Spears, with the sniper, Gino Bacola here, and big thanks to the two of you for helping out last week, a little under the weather. You can probably hear my voice, still getting a little bit better after a rough holiday season, and really, once my kids started school, now I just get sick all the time. That's honestly what ends up happening. But
that is
fellas,
the nature of it. Yeah.
Matty, how's your week been, buddy? How's the new year treating you?
New Year's been treating me great. Hit the late pick 5 at Aqueduct last night, so
Nice.
that was good.
About a couple $100, $300 or so.
Yeah,
right?
$300. Put together like a $48 ticket. So yeah, it was a nice little ROI. And then but otherwise everything's going well in the new year. Excited for this weekend, both at Gulfstream Park, and then I really like this Calbred Saturday out at Santa Anita.
And Barry, that'll be sort of our nice schedule for the next 4 months or so,
Yeah.
right? January, February, March, and then even into the beginning of April, we'll have Santa Anita, Gulfstream. We'll throw in some, Tampa here and there, and Keeneland will join the party a little bit, but consistently we'll have these two tracks. Man, you look good right there with that hat that you're rocking. You're rocking. Is that Snoop Dogg over there? There's so much drama in the LBC.
Daytona Beach City, that is. Yeah, man, it's gonna be a great, winter. I'm looking forward to the action picking up. The stakes, and then the 3-year-old stakes, and then, soon it's gonna be Derby time. So I'm here for it. I'm ready. Let's get this money.
So if you know that you're going to be playing the races from Gulfstream and from Santa Anita on Friday or Saturday, come and hang out with us every week. Set those alarms for Friday morning, 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. We will consistently be here with you each and every week. So we'd love to have you join us. We'd love to hear from you. If you're playing any races, let us know who's some of your best bets for the weekend. Between now and then, we'll have some promotions. We'll have some free giveaways, some free bet stuff. So come hang out, join the party, and we'll do our best to make you some money over the next few months. Matt, why don't you let us know what the schedule options are for today, for Friday? I believe we have Gulfstream, Santa Anita, and Tampa Bay Downs for a couple of options. What can the players take a swing at today?
Yeah, so today, if you're playing Tampa Bay Downs, there's a $25 game with a $1,500 pot, maximum of 3 entries. In terms of the races that we'll be covering, there's 2 different contests at Gulfstream Park. There is actually a very affordable $5 game with a maximum of 3 entries. It's a $400 pot, but that pot might just go up, and depending on the number of entries that we end up getting. But $5, get in the game. Nice way to start off the year. And then there's also a $50 triple up. So top 30% or so, top 26%, I believe, would triple up and get $150 for that $50 game cost. And then out at Santa Anita, another affordable game, $5 single entry game, and then also a $100 game with a $1,000 pot. So
Nice.
that's a nice little contest there as well. So really a contest for everybody's different price point: $5, $25, $50, $100. So whatever you're into, Stable Duel's got something for you at these 3 pretty big tracks running on Friday.
Yeah, and then just overall in general, because now Santa Anita, the meet is underway, and this meet rolls for a while. And same thing with Gulfstream. They've just introduced the Coast to Coast Pick 5, which is going to be really, really fun. Every Saturday and every Sunday, there's a new Pick 5 wager. It's a $based wager, and it will have combinations of races from Gulfstream Park and from Santa Anita. This week, there will be 2 from Gulfstream, 3 from Santa Anita that I'm sure we'll talk some about those races. And the Pick 5 is a $based wager with a 15% takeout. And if it doesn't get hit, it carries over to the next day. This is going to be, this is a no-brainer to take a swing at each and every week when we're already looking at these races. And, you have a chance to really connect with the higher minimum, the low takeout, and the back and forth, where it feels like they're going to pick out some of the better races, because it's not necessarily just like it. They used to have what was called the Magna Pick 5. I don't know if you guys remember that, where they would have the one from Laurel Park, and then they would go
great.
Gulfstream. The biggest hit I've ever had in my life was for 29 grand, was on a Magna Pick 5.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
And it would go from Santa Anita, Golden Gate, and Gulfstream, and then it would start with the Laurel race. And this is kind of similar, but it just will go back and forth from Santa Anita to Gulfstream. So we look forward to that. Our pick'em contest at Santa Anita are back with free every Saturday and every Sunday. You can get $500 this week. For Saturday, you have a lot of the Saturday NFL playoff games, as well as picking the winners of just some races at Santa Anita. Go to pick'em.santanita.com to find out more. Heck, Daily Racing Form has a huge New Year's sale this week. The performances that we're looking at. If you know that you're going to be looking at these for the next couple months for all the Kentucky Derby preps, handicapping, Gulfstream, Santa Anita, Oaklawn, Tampa, go take advantage right now. All throughout Monday, you can get major savings, and these are the DRF formulator past performances that we're always diving into. Fellas, I'm going to be looking at races 1, 4, and 5 for Friday at Gulfstream. Matt, you look like you've got races 4 and 6, and Barry, you look like you've got races 5, 7, and 8. So
we basically have the whole card.
I was going to say,
we basically have the whole card.
Kick back for Friday Gulfstream and enjoy.
Let's play a pick 5, and you can put your stable together for about
We'll build your stable for you right now. Yeah, about at least half of it as we begin the Friday card at Gulfstream Park, and we have a 7.5 furlong race on the turf course here. I'm going to go to the outside in this race. It looked to me like there are two major speeds, and I think they're drawn right next to each other towards the outside with Sergeant Sinatra and Networking. And I'm gonna lean to the 12, who I think just a little bit classier. Networking 3 races have all been at Monmouth. They've all been against maiden special weights, and he's shown a little bit of speed. He's also shown that he can come off the pace if he has to. And what I like is makeover package here, Barry. We got the blinkers coming on. First time gelding. They gave him a little bit of time off. Now they drop in class. You got to work on the turf course here, not here, but on the turf course recently. Lots of little things for this horse to drop in class for the first time. You got Luis Saez aboard for a horse who I want to get aggressive. And I think it's one of those situations where I'm not worried as much. Of course, anytime a horse draws outside, they could get parked. But with his particular running style and the way this race shapes up, I think both the 11 and the 12 are the 2 horses that are going to go from out there. So as long as he can get over and get into like the 2 path, I think he can be in a pretty good spot here. I'm going to give this horse a shot. The number 12, Networking, on the drop-in class today. Networking, he is 5-1 on the morning line, so that'll cost us just $6,000 in our stable dual lineup. That's about that average that we're looking for, or so all the way through. So 5-1 to kick off the card today on the outside with the number 12, Networking. That's as Barry says, when you see a horse like this, sometimes they're dropping in class, they're fresh, they're well spotted, they have the blinkers, they get the gelding. You can feel like the connections are doing a lot of things to try to get this horse a win, to try to show some improvement. Like they like this horse. Now they want to tweak as much as they can, add a few little things, changes, and let's see what we can get today from Networking, the number 12. So that's the way we're going to kick off the card today. But Matt, I believe you and I will both go next to the 4th race for our next place. So why don't you tell us who you're looking at in race number 4 today?
Yeah, so race number 4 is a $20,000 claimer for 4-year-old and up filly and mares. It's 5 furlongs on the synthetic. And for this one, I'm going to go to the number 3, Queen Cashmere. Are we on the same? Are we on the same one already?
Didn't take long to get there.
Kicking off the new year right. All right. So I'll tell you a little bit about why I like Queen Cashmere. So this is a horse that actually started out her career at Woodbine on the synthetic One of the things we talk about, though, is that not all synthetic courses are equal. Horses will take to certain synthetics more than others. This is true of any other surface. Gino, you see this a lot out in California.
Yeah.
Horses like Del Mar, but not Santa Anita. They like Santa Anita, but not Del Mar. So you see this regularly in a lot of tracks. So the Beyer speed figures don't blow you away when you look back at that Woodbine effort, although it should be noted that's where she broke her maiden. But then she goes on dirt for a long time. Then 2 out ago goes onto the turf and really perks up and runs a pretty nice race at Laurel, then gets shipped down to Gulfstream Park on a race that was supposed to be on the turf, gets taken off, runs on the synthetic, runs really well.
And the 9th.
So she's the 2 in this race that we're gonna pull up right here.
Yep. And she's the 2. Yeah. And so I just think that she's a horse that has shown the ability to run a pretty strong speed figure on synthetic, honestly, comparable to just about anybody else in this field. And on top of that, this is a connection of Claudio Gonzalez, the trainer, and Edgar Morelos, Jose Morelos, the jockey. They're winning at a 25% clip with a $2.71 ROI. So just a blind bet on any time they team up is going to return you a $2.71 profit to you on a $2 win bet. So you got to like that. Gino, you got the replay going. I know she came from way off the pace last time.
Yeah, she just kind of got the shuffle inside. It was a little bit sneaky. She was trying to get out of there, but she drew post 2, and there were just a couple horses to her outside that were a little bit faster. And so she ended up just getting shuffled and having to use some of that momentum and some of that energy. She's down towards the inside, which isn't always the easiest place to be. And there's not necessarily a whole lot of passing going on late in this race. I mean, she's right back up into contention with a lot of this field. If there's just a little bit more early pace in here, or she gets a slightly different trip where she doesn't have to come from all the way to the back and go try to get that momentum all the way started up again at a short 5 furlong clip, the drop in class should help. She's run well really on both surfaces, the synthetic and the turf. She's run well on an off track also. I think she just fits really well in here for Stable Duel also. And she's not going to cost you a whole lot to use in your Stable Duel lineup. She's honest. She's consistent. For 8-1 at $3,000, Matt and I are both using Queen Cashmere, race number 4 here at Gulfstream Park. So I will finish up my Gulfstream plays in the 5th, along with Barry. Barry, you have one in the 5th, and then in races 7 and 8. So Sniper, talk to us about who you're looking at in race number 5. We're going maiden claimers on the turf.
Yeah, this is a very lively group of maidens. Maiden claimer 35,000 going 7.5 on the turf course. This is the type of race that you'll get at Gulfstream quite a bit, with horses being unveiled on the turf for the first time, or horses just getting on the turf. They may have had a couple races, but it seems like these are the horses that are going to try to, prove themselves on the grass.
Mm-hmm.
It ends up being a lot of steam. You get a lot of steam from wherever, and horses get bet down. Like, for instance, just on my opinion, I think the 5, Lady Hamilton, is probably going to get bet down because of the connections.
Yeah.
Although this horse hasn't gone this far before, I really don't like this horse in this race. I don't even like the second choice, Defender Gal. I mean, yeah, the horse could turn it around on the turf and might be something special, but I'm willing to bet against that at a short price. So given all that, I ended up on number 1, Battling Bubbles. Just, for the fact that A, it's the rail, and I think this horse may want to try to get out in front of everything. The trainer has pretty good stats first time out on the turf, which definitely helps because it seems like he understands his stock and where they fit and why this is a turf horse rather than on the dirt. It looks like they tried to have this horse run on the turf first time out at Indiana Downs or Indiana Grand.
And the race came back very live.
And it came back live. A couple winners came out of that race. So I think this horse might hint to having some ability. I really like the steady stream of works from November 26th to December 26th. So, why not give a chance to a horse at 15-1 that you really can't say anything bad about? Not that you could say anything bad about others, but I like the fact that this horse has a race under his belt, her belt, and then everybody else doing different things. You have the outside horse, Apple Lover, drawing Jose Ortiz should get some attention. So the price is going to be there, even if this horse is a little bit live. Still probably won't be the favorite or anything like that.
That is the number one, a big price, 15-1, Battling Bubbles for the Sniper. Battling Bubbles Barry will get you a 15-1 shot. So for your stable dual lineups, we're only talking about what, $500, right, to include in your stable dual lineups. This really gives you some nice wiggle room if you can get a 15-1 shot in there. As I have a play in here too. I'm looking, shout out Iron White Lotus. Great show. Mike White. The guy actually, I've mentioned this before a little bit. The writer of White Lotus is the writer and like one of the stars of the movie that I was in. You can see on Hulu, Chuck and Buck. Mike White.
Buck.
Yeah, Mike White is a big star now. Like he's done, I actually just watched another one of his shows recently, Enlightened, which was on HBO Max with Laura Dern, and Luke Wilson, which was a pretty good show. Nonetheless, let's get
Mike. You tell Mike that we got some actors on this show.
Yeah, I say, Mike, man. I was gonna say I can act whatever you need. You just
right, Mike. Come on, man, give me a part, dog.
We got acting, we got singing, we got we got all sorts of performance.
We got whatever you need. A array of talents.
Right, I can code switch with the best of them.
True talent in every sense of the word. As I go to my 8 in here, American Odalisque. Now, this is a filly who debuted at Churchill back in September and then just completely missed the break that day at Churchill. It was a bad start. So I think you can just eliminate that debut race. She comes back on October the 14th. And what I love and why we pull up the DRF is just like we saw, for every one of our plays, we can find something really quickly. With just using the DRF past performances, we can pull up the chart right here. We can, race replays. We can go to pedigree information quickly. So American Odalisque is the 10 in this race that we're watching. She's like 8th, about 5 or 6 lengths off. She's in the 2-path, and she's in not a bad spot right here, but she's going to end up getting caught in between horses. And then you can see the fractions start to really slow down. They go decent fractions to the first quarter right here, and then they really slow down. They go 49-1 to the half mile, and that's when she gets kind of caught as they all get bunched up, and then it's a little bit too late when she finally gets a chance to run in here. But if you look at American Odalisque, her dam was 2 for 8 on the turf, was a stakes winner. She's a half sibling to 2 turf winning siblings. One of them is named Fresh Feline, who's multiple graded stakes placed, and you can see right now she's stuck already. She's in between horses, not necessarily in the best of spot. There's a horse that's got her pinned to the outside. She's kind of in between in the 2-path here, and she's just going to be at the mercy of the rest of the group, kind of waiting for room, waiting for an opportunity, waiting for a chance. So that's the 8, American Odalisque. That's what the race looks like. You take one click and you can look at the dam, Marry Me in Spring, who was a multiple winner on the turf here. Shout out to Louisiana Downs. She had some success there. They just opened up their quarter horse meet this past week. If you're a quarter horse fan, check out the action over at LAD. But this one also has Fresh Feline, as I mentioned, who's a multiple graded stakes placed turfer. So there's plenty of turf in this pedigree, and American Odalisque showed enough to show me that she actually is fine on the grass. We know the pedigree is good. Now she's going to drop in class. She's going to get Lasix for the first time. I think she fits pretty well in here with Paco jumping aboard. That's the 8 in race number 5, American Odalisque at Gulfstream Park. So actually, those are my 3 plays. I'm done pretty early on in the card, but I know, Barry, you have one in race number 7, and I believe, Matt, you've got one right before that in the 6th, right?
Right, I do. I have one in the 6th, and that is a $54,000 allowance for state-bred 3-year-olds, and it's 1.70 miles on the Tapeta. And for this one, I like the number 5, Captain Anthony, which is 10-1 on the morning line, only going to cost you $1,000 on Stable Duel. So this is a little bit of a value play. But this is a horse that really has shown nice progression. If you look, this horse ran on synthetic all 3 career races. From a Beyer speed figure standpoint, you've seen a steady progression from a 52 to a 62 to a 64, which I always like to see from young horses, that steady progression. And the 64 Beyer speed figure is actually one of the stronger ones in the field from the standpoint of running on the synthetic. If you look right underneath Captain Anthony, you'll see Smart Striker. This is a horse that is 5-1 on the morning line. So half that price and would cost you $6,000. That's a horse whose best career Beyer on the synthetic is a 55. So Captain Anthony, like I said, 10-1, $1,000, 64 Beyer speed figure. I like that. This is a horse that ran in a state restricted stakes race 2 back. Really was, as the note said, fractious in the gate.
And that's the key, Matt, not to interrupt
Yeah.
you, but compare these 2 horses that we're looking at, right?
Yeah.
And that Captain Anthony's first race and third race were both against Open Company.
Yep.
And the only poor race was the one that he ran against Smart Striker, where he was actually half of the price of Smart Striker on the morning line, but he just had trouble that day. And because Smart Striker outfinished him in that race, he's half the price he is in here.
Exactly. And it's one of those things where, Captain Anthony, like I said, was just, when you go back and watch the replay of that race, it was an awkward start, just broke to the very back, but had plenty of run coming late, and looked very strong coming late. So this is a horse I just think is primed for a pretty nice effort. And also last time out drew the inside rail and had that kind of dreaded inside second flight trip that we always talk about, where the first horse starts backing up and now you're backing up and now you're kind of trying to get around things. And so I just think this horse drawing in more to the middle of the field, should get, it seems like any gate issues that were there in that second race aren't there anymore. Getting Lasix for the first time. I just think there's a lot of things to like there. And also, picking up Jose Ortiz on the mount. I mean, this is, no disrespect to any of the previous jockeys, but a bit of a jockey upgrade. And it's something I always notice when you see a jockey like Jose Ortiz hopping on a horse for a very small barn like this. That usually tells me something. So
it's not a negative.
It really is not a negative. No. And Jose's been having a nice meet at Gulfstream Park. And so in terms of just, hitting winners, but also putting horses in really good positions to do well. So I'm going to say Captain Anthony, 10-1, $1,000. That's going to be my play in the 6th race.
Captain Anthony. Nice play here for Matt. I'm going to steal this one from you, Matt, for my my stable duel lineup today, as we move right next door to race number 7 for Barry. So we'll scratch the 3 out of here. Bletchley Girl is out. And we will go 5.5 furlongs.
By the way, can I just say that horse really threw me off because I thought it was Baffert's Bletchley Park for a second.
I did the same.
Bletchley is like not a common name for a horse. And I'm like,
I was like, I think
son of a bitch, is Baffert running this horse?
I just played this horse the other day. I was like, this horse just went wire to wire, I think, right? Or like was sitting
That's exactly what he did. Yeah.
In between horses and dug down. Yeah. So Barry, talk to us about this maiden 25 claimer.
Yeah, actually, Bletchley Park was a horse that Bletchley Park, there you go. Bletchley Girl is a horse that I actually kind of liked a little bit in here. I didn't really know what to do with that horse, and I'm actually glad that horse scratched, because this is another one that's kind of, it's up for grabs. You always know and can count on that the connections will get bet in a race like this because it's young horses. You have the one on the inside who ran against the 7, and they were still, 17 lengths behind the winner. So usually, it's kind of hard to gauge how really good those horses behind the runaway winner was. So in this instance, I'm just going to disregard that and think that they're just average. I mean, their Beyer speed figures weren't anything to write home about. Nobody's is in this race, that have actually run. So I'm going to opt to a horse that hasn't run yet, and it's not going to be the 8 because I think there's a lot of speed in here. It's the 4, Botita. And the attractor is the long works. You see the steady stream of 5 furlong works. And I like that for a debut effort against horses that have already run, because usually those kind of horses don't need the lead. And I think there's a lot of pace in here. I think the 8's going to have to go with Paco on the outside. Showed some speed last time, just got dusted by a better horse. The 5 and more Victorious should get out there too. So there's enough speed in here. No knocks on this horse as of yet. I'll give that horse a shot at 6-1.
Barnes started very nicely at the meet with their
Yeah.
winners of 3 of their first 4, and the other one also fired. Botita, the number 4 in race number 7 for Barry. And like always, Barry loves those back-to-back races, those traditional old school doubles. So take us through race number 8 and let us know how you want to finish up your plays for Friday.
Yeah. So this is a state bred optional claimer, 20,000 for fillies and mares 4 years old and up, going 7.5 on the turf. Oh, geez, this is another one. This is a good card. I can say that for a Friday. Usually Fridays tend to dip a little bit at Gulfstream, and then Saturdays probably a little bit more like of a monster card. But this one is really challenging from a betting perspective. That being said, this is another race where I think there's some, the pace might heat up a little bit here. You have the 4 Frosted Oats, who will probably be favorite, I think, that needs to get out in front of horses. You have the 2 State Crown. If that horse kind of digs back early to mid 2022 form, this one might end up showing some pace. You have the 8 Bravo Zulu, who's definitely going to the lead. The 9 may be forced to go, and that leaves my horse, which is number 7 Kose, at 15-1. This horse can lay close enough to that pace, but far enough back not to get burned up by it. And you can see that in the races on the synthetic, but arguably this horse's best races have come on the turf. So, got claimed on October 2nd by the Current Connections and just turned into a better horse altogether. And I think the improvement's still going to be there. May end up getting a perfect trip today. So that's where I'm going, 15-1. Why not?
Some big prices. Kose at 15-1 will only cost you 500. So we've helped you there at Gulfstream Park on Friday. We've given you some big prices all throughout the card. And what's great is you don't have to use them all, right? But if 1 or 2 of these horses can help get into your lineups, if we could help you with 1 or 2 of these horses in your pick 4s and your pick 5s, that's what we're hoping for, is helping you kind of connect on those races where you might have a blind spot or where you might struggle to really have a strong opinion. That's what we're hoping for. Maybe even it might not be something about this particular horse in this particular race, but there might be something about what Barry said that you're going to take and maybe use for a race tomorrow or for next week. That's also what we're hoping to do here. Friday, Gulfstream Park in the books. Let's turn the page to Santa Anita for Friday. Now, I will say it has been pouring out here in Southern California over the last few days. It's not raining today, and I think it's supposed to be pretty good. It stopped about middle of the day yesterday, and I think it's supposed to be pretty good today and tomorrow. Next week, it's supposed to start raining again. So I'm going to go as these grass races will be run, because I don't think there's going to be all that much more rain coming in. So let's dive into Santa Anita. Matt, if you can, remind us what our options are today for Santa Anita games for those folks who want to play.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're looking to play Santa Anita today, there's a couple of really great opportunities. One is going to be for, folks just starting out. It's going to be that nice $5
Nice.
single entry game that's out there. So 35 people have already entered. And so the pot may very well increase, but it's a $400 pot, $5 single entry contest. Those are always a lot of fun, I think. And then there's also a $100 contest with a $1,000 pool. Minimum of 10 people have to enter, maximum of 2 entries per person. That one could get pretty pricey pretty quick as well, in terms of that pot could go up a little bit if you start getting 12, 15 people in the contest. So that always affects the payouts, the amount of people getting paid out, things like that. Just as an example, and this is what I love about Stable Duel, is they had a contest last week, earlier this week, I should say, where they were only planning on paying out the top 10 in terms of, who was going to finish based upon the pot size. Well, so many people entered, they ended up paying out the top 18. So, like I said, the more people who enter, the more money gets paid out, and it's always very flexible in that regard. So always like that. But yeah, $5 and $100 contest at Santa Anita today.
And that is Santa Anita Friday that we're looking at. Barry's going to kick us off for Santa Anita Friday. He has a play in race number 3, I believe, Barry. And this third race for Friday at Santa Anita, we are looking at a group of $16,000 claimers going a mile on the dirt. Talk to us about who strikes your fancy in this one.
Yeah, I took number 1, Box of Chocolates. I think this horse's form is just dirtied up just enough to throw everybody off. There's quite a bit of speed signed on here. So if you start from the outside, the horse number 8, Looking for Revenge. Typically that horse's best races have come when that horse has been on the lead. I know the last time the horse kind of sat off the pace, but was just way better than that field at that $8,000 claimant field, and kind of ran like it. But I think that horse needs to be close up.
Yep.
The 5, Niles Channel, who this horse is kind of just doesn't want to win, but has speed, goes to the lead, will be a pace factor. Then you have the 2, High Heater, who in this race, I just don't, this dropping class just doesn't seem right. The horse actually didn't win twice and had every opportunity to win at the $25,000 level on November 5th and the 23rd of September, and just didn't get it done. Then they raised the horse in class and he just throws in a clunker, and that's not a good sign for me.
When you come all the way back to 16, why not come back to 25 where he was competitive?
And it looks like those numbers, if you look at that November 5th race, that might, I don't know, it just doesn't sit right.
Like it took a little out of him. Maybe that race was kind of tough or something,
Right. There's something going on here, and it seems like this horse is just not going in the right direction. At 5-2 on the morning line is definitely a bet against. Now, the rest of the horses like Zimba Warrior are going to be way far back. Pepperman, way back. Big Buzz, way back. And this horse, the one who I selected, is probably going to be the only horse in that second flight. And if that's the case, I can't see anybody getting a better trip than this horse, and we'll get first run, and it's a matter of whether he can hold off the cavalry charge.
That is Santa Anita Friday, race number 3. Now, I wanted to point out too, because I'm sure that a lot of people who are watching this are big sports fans and are fans of all things happening. A little bit of a tangent, but this week was one of the scariest things I can remember in sports. What happened on Monday Night Football with Damar Hamlin, where we all thought we had seen the passing of someone in the middle of a football game, and it has been very scary. As of just a little earlier this morning, within the last 45 minutes or so, the breathing tube is out of Damar Hamlin. He has begun talking to his teammates again. He has no longer a breathing tube in his body, and he can fully breathe on his own, which is just incredible information and news for what was a really scary situation. You're never out of the woods or anything, but wow. Just wanted to share that with a lot of people who I'm sure have been following and monitoring that situation, may not have seen that news, but that gave me a little bit of a jolt this morning and a little bit of a pick me up, because I know as someone who covers football, I was having a tough time this week really figuring out how to approach it. I bumped a couple of my shows back because we didn't really know what to do. Honestly, I couldn't sit down and rewatch games and do my normal analysis, because I just kept thinking about what that was like to walk out on the field and not sure, but I didn't want to get off on a tangent, but it was great news that I wanted to share with
absolutely
folks. And that definitely gets me feeling good this morning as we continue on Santa Anita for Friday. So I've got one for the 4th here. Matt, your Friday plays are
7 and 8.
7
I'm
and 8
going
towards
with the double bailout. I'm just
double
okay.
At the back to back. Okay.
Late
Santa Anita,
double.
Late double bailout, race number 4. I'm going towards the outside. I'm going to the number 8 in here, Montana. So this is a Calbred maiden special weight race. And I think if you look at Montana and you go through his career, it's another horse that you hear me say this quite a bit. It all makes sense when I'm looking at what he's done. So he debuts in a pretty tough maiden special weight race at Del Mar in a Calbred race that's come back very, very live, because the winner of that race is the Big Wham, who came back to win the graduation. In fact, they thought enough of this horse to throw him in the Grade 1 Del Mar Futurity against Cave Rock. Kangaroo Court, who was the runner-up in that race, came back to win their next start by 14 lengths and earned an 81 Beyer speed figure in doing so. That was a really tough race to debut in Del Mar towards the end of the summer. Then Montana in career start number 2, they drop him down in class, and he runs really well against maiden $50,000 claimers. In the third start, they tried the turf and actually step up again, but just didn't seem like turf was really what he wanted to do. He didn't have the best of trips in that race. In his following start, he's shown improvement. And now all he needs to do is just kind of continue throwing up the races that he has. That November 27th race is a little deceiving too, because he was kind of in between horses throughout that race. They didn't really make a decision to go or to try to sit. It was like he was kind of being asked for a run the whole race, which is not easy. I sort of like it when the riders are very decisive with their moves. Let's get aggressive, or let's grab a hold and sit back. When you try to ask a horse repeatedly, think about it. They're not machines. They're animals. Like, sometimes they just don't have another gear when you're going to go ask them to start and stop and start and stop. And then they start getting confused. What do you want them to do? Do you want him to go? Do you want him to not? I think drawing to the outside with Maldonado aboard, I think they might just let loose in here. This horse is going to get Lasix for the first time. I wouldn't be shocked if they rock and roll. And if not, if somebody else goes, I love the outside draw. It makes it much easier for you to sit out there versus where this guy was last time in between horses. He was being asked to do a lot. I like the 8 Montana. He's 5-1. Only cost us $6,000 in our stable dual lineup. That's just below what the average is you need to build your lineup throughout the day. So Montana, shout out to my favorite person in the world was my grandma Helen, who passed away about 10 years ago. And I always think of Helena Montana. We always used to joke about that with her. So anytime I think Montana, I always think of my grandma, who she always used to give me a 20 and say, go turn this into a little bit more at the racetrack. So shout out to Helen, one of my absolute favorite people in the world. Hopefully she can help me get Montana home in the winner's circle a little later on today. But for me, I'll go to races 7 and 8 along with you, Matt. And we're all three going to be in race 7, I believe. We all meet together in race number 7. Let's see what happens. Matt, why don't you let us know who you're looking at in race number 7 today
So
at Santa Anita?
I actually like 2 horses in this race. So
Okay,
this is,
and you have to double up today at Santa Anita because there's only 8 races. You need
exactly. You got to
10
double
spots.
up at least twice. And so
Yep.
I like 2 5-1 horses, or 6-1 horses, I should say. I like the 3 and the 5 in this race. All right.
Number 3. You and
So-
I am back on the 3.
Yes, I got the 3.
Okay, so let's
look
all
at
talk
that.
about
That's
Henny's. Let the law professor lock of the week is
There we
here.
go.
Henny's Crazy Train. I'll kick off talking about this one, but this is second back from a year-long layoff, and this is a horse that really showed a lot. I think last time out, and actually posted a tied for career best Beyer speed figure coming off that incredibly long layoff. Seems like maybe this horse really has turned a corner. Got claimed by Doug O'Neill, and so now you're in a new barn. Fantastic work on Christmas Eve, 48-4, 5 furlong work at Los Al. Really like that. This is a horse that it seems like it's absolutely ready to fire. This horse has versatility, can sit a few different types of trips, has one wiring the field, has also won sitting as far back as 6th, has also finished, has also stalked essentially and won that way. So this horse has, super versatile. I remember this horse running. I think we talked about this horse last year on a few days, back in 2021. Yeah. And so this is a nice horse that I remember covering, earlier in 2021, and glad to see it back. I just think at 6-1, you're getting really good value on a super versatile horse that's dropping to a claiming 32. And I think this makes a lot of sense for this spot.
Yeah.
I was
Go
gonna
ahead.
say this horse. There's versions of this race where this horse is lone speed,
Yeah.
And getting Maldonado is really the key for me. It's go time. He's going to want to go to the lead here or be really close up. And I think that's the place to be.
And he just missed the break in his start off the bench, which was
Yeah, well, he
basically off
needed
a
that
full
race.
year.
Yeah.
And he ran exactly like you thought he would run when he needed the race, right? Like
Mhm.
got a little, and we talk about it sometimes. It looked like the harness race running line where you come off a long layoff and you come running late, and then the next week, the next time you show up, you show a lot more speed. You're just a lot more aggressive and put into the race. And if for some reason other horses want to go, he has no problem sitting off the pace. Heck, this is a horse who's done really little wrong in his entire career. You look at the race at Colonial, which was probably a little too tough for him, and it was going long on the turf, which is a totally different ballgame than what we're talking about here. But it was a race they just sort of took a swing at because he won nicely the week before, and it was like, the Colonial meet's not that long, run for some pretty big money, let's just take a shot. And then following that race, they went back to the dirt, and he was fine. He ran really well again. He finished second. He won in a 50 starter allowance. So he won a race at Keeneland against 40 claimers just last year, and he's in here for 32. He really seems like he fits in this group. I think he takes a nice step forward. Everything we said about the speed figure, he came back off a long layoff and gave like his best ever buyer speed figure. And now we think, as a 5-year-old, a newly turned 5-year-old mare, think about the time period that she missed from basically like all of that development from 3 to 4, that whole year when horses turn 3 to 4, think about how when we see those 3-year-olds become older horses and what they look like the next year sometimes. And for mares, a lot of times it's like from 4 to 5, as they even get a little bit older, they get a little bit, classier and even a little bit like kind of meaner and more stubborn and just better racehorses overall. So we're all three on Henny's Crazy Train. It's the lock of the week. Love it. Love it. Henny's Crazy Train, 6-1 on the morning line will only cost you $5,000 in your stable dual lineup. So I've got one more, Sniper, and I believe you do. You do too, right, Matt?
Yeah, I have one in the 8th. Yeah,
Barry. I believe Barry's done for Friday for Santa Anita. You and I have the 8th race. Matt, let us know who you're looking at in race number 8.
Yeah, so this might be another. I don't know. We'll see if we're just all in alignment here. But I'm on the number 7, Ready Rumor. I don't know if this is
you and I are different spots here. Talk to us about Ready Rumor.
Yeah. So Ready Rumor, I think there's a couple of interesting plays. I think the 9's kind of interesting too. But the 7 Ready Rumors, 8-1 on the morning line, only going to cost you $3,000. This is a horse that is second back from a layoff, which is kind of an angle we always like to play. It's a horse that's really done nothing wrong. And this is a horse that's finished three consecutive races at a maiden special weight 43 and then a maiden claimer 50 twice. Has had some gait issues. I know, Barry's co-host on Going in Circles, Chuck Simon, jokes, hey, it's amazing. These horses that have, break issues the first time out, they have them the second time out and the third time out too. Yeah. And this horse, it's not that this horse can't break. It's just that this horse has had bad luck early in races. It's just been bumped around a lot. It's just been kind of gotten some rough trips. So the horse can break. It just has had, like I said, some bad luck and was bumped around early last time out. I think this horse is kind of consistent and improving just from a buyer speed figure standpoint, gone, 24 in debut, then 41, then 51. So this horse is progressively getting faster each time out. And that 51 buyer last time out is pretty good and stands up pretty well to where everybody else is in the rest of this field. So I think this makes a lot of sense. Getting the bug, so has a little bit of a weight allowance. Very nice work on Christmas Eve, 1:01, 5 furlong work, and then had a real long 6 furlong work on December 30th. So I just think there's a lot going on with this particular horse. And I think at 8-1, you're getting fair value for horses demonstrated the ability to hit the board. And one of the things we talk about with Stable Duel all the time is these 8-1, 10-1, 12-1 horses, they don't need to win for you to be able to win on Stable Duel.
No.
They need to be able to finish well underneath. And if they grab a third, they grab a second, that's great. That's getting you positive ROI for your investment from a standpoint of Stable Duel. So I think this is a horse that's demonstrated that ability. And I just, like I said, like this horse as a pretty safe long shot play in race 8 today at Santa Anita.
Number 7, Ready Rumor. I'll be looking at a similar priced horse, just a couple stalls down in the number 9, Ice Storm. So if we dive into Ice Storm's races against maiden special weights, seems like he's in a little bit too tough. So in his career debut, goes long on the turf. That race is irrelevant. But then they drop in class at Los Alamitos against maiden $50,000 claimers. He runs very well that day. He just misses, beating the neck, comes back. They try long on the turf again. Doesn't want to go long on the turf. He misses the break that day. And I will say, I don't really know that he doesn't want to run on the grass because both of his turf starts were pretty brutal trips. And they were both bad starts right at the beginning. He comes back on November the 12th, drops in for maiden claimers. Again, just misses. He's beaten only a neck. They step him back up. It was a little bit too much. He couldn't get involved against maiden special weights. Now they drop back in class. They get Lasix for the first time. One thing that really stood out to me, look at the 2 most recent workouts for this horse. Also on December the 24th and on January the 2nd. They're cutting back, so they're definitely trying to get a lot more speed into this horse to get him involved early on in this race on the cutback. I think the race is going a little long, might be a little bit too long for him. And if he can get involved here, he might have just a lot more late punch in this race. I feel like it's a good spot for the number 9, Ice Storm, to come running late in here. I don't think he'll be on the lead sprinting, but I like that speed that they've shown in the mornings can just sharpen him up and keep him in striking range in here. And just sort of looking at the way the rest of this race could shape up. Yep. You're looking at from the rail, Storm the Night, who has shown speed. I think they could be shoved here and they could be sending hard. You have the 4, who's shown speed. I think they will be forwardly placed. You have Henry Q, who wasn't far out of it and middle moved into it. Wouldn't be a shock to see Ready Rumor show some early speed in here. And now all of a sudden, you're looking at combinations of 4 or 5 horses who could all be forwardly placed. Pacific State's first couple races showed speed. I'd imagine they'd probably like to get him back to showing some of that speed too. It could set up nicely for a horse coming from off the pace, and that might be the number 9, Ice Storm, who is 8-1 on the morning line, will only cost you $3,000 in your stable dual lineup.
Really like this horse as well. This was my second choice. Actually, I really went back and forth on giving this one out or the 7. And I also, for all the reasons you explained, this is a good play as well, I think.
One more too. Vasquez is just a really good speed rider and getting horses involved in the race. And just showing a little bit more speed than they might have in their prior races. So I think a good fit here with the number 9, Ice Storm. So Friday in the books, we got you a couple at Gulfstream. We got you a couple at Santa Anita. Let's turn the page to Gulfstream Park for Saturday. And as we look at Saturday for Gulfstream Park, Matt, you are looking at races 6, 7, 9, and 11.
11,
Barry,
I just have a special note. So I just want to kind of point something out in race 11 that's interesting. That goes back to a horse we gave out a couple weeks ago.
Oh, you know what? I know exactly. Yep, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. That's the only reason I wanted to talk about that one.
Yep, that's a good one. And that one's in the pick 5 too.
Yeah.
Coast to coast pick 5. So that's a very important race to talk about. I'm glad that you wanted to bring that up too. But Barry, you have one to get things started, I believe, in race number 2 for us on Saturday.
Yeah, we're going early, my friend.
Okay.
Early.
Talk to us about this second.
So it's a state bred optional claimer, $20,000 for 4-year-olds who have never won a race other than maiden claiming a starter, 6 furlongs on the main track. Just one look at the past performances, one like a once over, you can see that there's a ton of speed in this race. And what doesn't get talked about a lot in general, whether it's on TV or, any handicapping, is the lone closer angle.
Mm-hmm.
It's just as effective as the lone speed angle, but you just don't see it as often.
Yep. And it's a little bit harder to predict. Do you know what I mean? Just because sometimes, but when you can feel it and you can sense it, like it is, there's nothing like that feeling when they all line up and you've got that one horse in the back and you just know they're about to swoop.
Yep, and that's what we got here. That's exactly what we got here. Number 4, Starship Renegade. He's 10-1 on the morning line, which I doubt we'll get. But I mean, if you look at everybody here, you gotta think the one is going to try to get the lead.
Yep.
The two's best races have come when that horse has been on the lead. The three, going back to August of 2021, speed horse. If not, the horse is going to be nowhere.
They don't want to
And
pass.
right, and you figure they're getting IRED tomorrow, so he's probably going to get aggressive. Then you got the 5, Song Runner. His lone win was on the lead, wire to wire. The 6, the favorite, Event Glory, same thing. The only one that hasn't been doing any of that was Starship Renegade. And I think this horse is fast enough to stay in contention, close enough to make that one run and pass everybody. And at 10-1, if we get somewhere around there, that's fine with me.
Starship Renegade 10-1 will only cost you 1,000 in your stable duel lineup. Starship Renegade for the sniper in race number 2. So I'm going to move to race number 4 for my next play at Gulfstream on Saturday. It'll be 7.5 furlongs on the turf, and we'll be looking at a first-time starter in here. I'm looking at the number 8, Nate the Great, who's a 3-year-old son of West Coast. This is a Safety Joseph Jr. first-time starter who does so well at Gulfstream Park. And, just a couple real basic trends for this one that I like. So Nate the Great comes out of a dam, who was a 3-time winner on the turf, Conquest Baby Yaga. She won in her first turf start. In fact, she won her first 3 turf starts. Then they stepped her up against Grade 3 Company. She finished second in the Grade 3 Intercontinental. And then in her final race, she was in the stakes race that finished off her career. But she was very, very good. In fact, she really only ran one poor race, and that was in the Forward Gal behind Catherine Sophia back in January of 2016. And she has also not produced many. And I kind of like when there's not a whole lot of pedigree besides the dam, because if everybody sees that there's a bunch of turf winners, then, it's going to make things a little bit more difficult for you to get a price. But I think Nate the Great is a horse who should like the turf fine. We know that this barn has no problem getting horses ready to rock first time out of the box, getting them ready, especially at Gulfstream Park. Nate the Great, 6-1 on the morning line, will only cost you 5,000 in your stable dual lineup. I think this is a nice first-time starter to throw in, a good horse in any early pick 5s that you're using. I think this horse will probably get bet a little bit because of that money that the barn usually will attract. So 6-1 on Nate the Great for me. Saturday, race number 4. But I know Barry has the 7th. Matt has race number 6 for his next play. So Matt, let's go to race number 6 for Gulfstream on Saturday. Let us know who you're looking at in the 6th race, Synthetic Time.
Yeah, on the Tapeta, it is a $35,000 maiden claimer for 3-year-old fillies. And this was an interesting one for me. I think you could make an argument for the 1 Wicked Ice, which is second back from a layoff, and 5-1. I don't love that inside rail, which is why I'm going to kind of move away. I'll move to the outside, and the number 8 horse, Get Stormin', at 8-1 on the morning line. This is a horse that is only going to cost you $3,000 on Stable Duel, and is getting a bit of class relief, going from a maiden optional claimer 50 down to a maiden claiming 35. So you are getting a little bit of class relief. This horse is getting the blinkers put on, which is, I think, going to be a benefit, and is also getting Lasix for the first time. The other thing that I always like about this is a horse that has trained on the Tapeta the last couple of times. And so I always like to look at horses that are training on that Tapeta surface before actually running on it for the first time. How have they taken to it? Particularly, this is a horse that ran on turf first time out, now running on the Tapeta, and has fired off 2 pretty smart 4 furlong workouts on the Tapeta, 48-1 and 48-3. So, has shown the ability to kind of, I think, handle that Tapeta surface okay. Like I said, always like going after equipment changes in maiden claimers and getting Lasix for the first time, the blinkers coming on. This is a horse that just hopped at the start, first time out. It wasn't a particularly bad break, but it just led the horse to being last early on. And so
And
this
you had
horse,
no shot after that. You're just
exactly,
done.
exactly. And so, especially in a 5 furlong, you got nothing then. And so this horse now breaking to the far outside, getting the blink, or not the far outside, but further outside, getting the blinkers put on, should be forwardly placed. And I think at 8-1 provides you a little bit of value there for only $3,000 in Stable Duel.
That is Get Stormin', the number 8 in race number 6 for Matt. And I will go right next door, as will
I think
Matt,
we all have.
as will
Yeah.
Barry. We will
Yeah.
all three be in the Danya Beach.
Here we go.
So the
Uh-oh.
Danya Beach is a fun turf 3-year-old stakes race for newly turned 3-year-olds. You will have a horse named Major Dude, who's making his first start since the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. He was 9th in that race, but he is a Grade 2 winner in the Pilgrim. I'd imagine that none of the three of us are going to him since he's 8-5
No.
on the morning line. You'll also
Negatory.
have the 6 who ships in for Graham Motion, who gets the services of Joel Rosario, who's also intriguing, coming off of 3 straight wins. But I'm going to go to the number 4.
Yes.
Oh, here we go.
Let's go, 2023.
Let's do
Let's
it.
go.
We are all
Yes.
in unison this morning. We're all seeing the same things here. I mean, Congruent's turf debut, I just thought was very, very good. He was a good third that day. He was chasing Ari Gold. And we talked about that race on this show about a month ago. Ari Gold was lone speed in that race.
Mhm.
He didn't have any pace to run at in there. And he was actually in some traffic. He was in between horses going into the first turn. He had to back out of a tight spot chasing the lone speed 4-5 favorite. He came on again. He just missed a second that day. It's going to be second time turf. He gets some pace to sit behind in here today. Looking at the way the race shapes up, you've got Barzini, who I think is going to be quick. Worthington wants to be pretty close in here. I'd imagine the 3, Cheer for Charlie, is going to go. And then you have Candidate from the rail. They're going to go. That's at least 3, possibly 4 horses pushing the pace in here. And Congruent, I just off the breeding alone, bred beautifully for the turf here. And now he showed that he actually runs well on the turf. Part the Seas was a multiple winner on the turf, and Part the Seas has produced 2 turf winning siblings. Ocean's Map is one of them, and Sea of Hope is the other. Lots of turf in the pedigree, checks a lot of boxes, like the race. Think that the style of this horse shapes up. Just for me, there were so many little things to like about Congruent. What about for you, Barry?
Yeah, basically, this goes back to something that I learned from the DRF rider Dave Litvin. Rest in peace to Dave, and shout out to his family for their loss. But basically, you see that Congruent ran a decent buyer number first time out on the turf. Usually that, regardless of how good or how good you think the numbers are, because they're really not reliable for turf races, but everybody's using the same ones if you're looking at the form. The second time out, there's always an improvement. Most of the time, unless there's something crazy happens at the break,
Traffic or trouble, or
something just kind of an outlier performance where the horse kind of gets in trouble. This horse fits that pattern. He was well meant from the beginning and has steadily improved, got on the turf, ran his best race to date. I think there's more improvement there. This field isn't all that great. Major Dude is really suspect as a favorite. Only ran well kind of once.
I know.
In a race that wasn't even that good. The Pilgrim wasn't even, that good this year. That was validated by his performance in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. So I'm definitely against that horse. And there seems to be enough speed in here to get Congruent a good trip. And that's why I landed here too.
Yep. Matt, finish us up with Congruent.
Yeah, same sort of thing. As second off, second time running on a surface switch with a slight step up in class is an angle I always like. I mean, now going from a listed stake 75 to a listed stakes $100,000, you're going to find value there. As Barry pointed out, that second time on the surface, you typically see an even more of an improvement. But here's the thing: the 82 buyers is as good as anybody else in the field on turf. And I mean, it's better than anything Major Dudes put up. So even if this horse just replicates that 82 effort, it should be enough to win this particular race. So I just think this makes a lot of sense. Sanyo and Zayas as well are a pretty winning combination at Gulfstream Park. I think winning at about a 25% clip. So a lot to trust there, I think, from those connections as well. 5-1 on the morning line. And you got to hope that Major Dude, because of the name recognition, takes a lot of money. And that maybe congruent is 8, but you're able to get 5-1. The other thing that I'll mention is this horse also ran in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile congruent. Yeah. And what I really liked was came back and ran a live race next time out. I mean, how often do we see that hangover effect?
And we're always playing against horses like that.
Absolutely.
Coming back from the Breeders' Cup, coming back from long journeys to Dubai or Saudi Arabia, places like that, right? Yep. All the time. So yep. I agree with you. It's almost like you shook the rust off last time, and now we expect better and sharper.
Exactly.
You know, so awesome. Well, we've already come together a few times early this morning for Friday and for Saturday. So congruent. That's what's nice, that if the horse doesn't run well, you can't only blame me. You know what I mean? Like, you can blame both of these guys too. Like, at least make sure all three of us get tagged in your pissed off tweets. That's all I'm asking. Okay. All three of us as we continue along. So Matt, you and I want to take peeks at races 9 and 11. I know Barry's done for Gulfstream for Saturday. We'll move to Santa Anita for Saturday in just a moment. But first we take a look at the Ginger Brew, which is another kind of very relevant race for us on these streams from just a few weeks ago also, Matt, because there was a horse that ran. There were actually 2 horses that ran on December the 10th in the wait a while, and they both ran pretty well that day. The 2 Isabel Alexandra, and Barry gave out the 5 Stephanie's Charm. Yep. I'm pretty sure at a huge price, and the horse ran third at like 30-1. If both of these horses come out of the same race, I actually wanted to pull it up because I think you can use either one of them. And if you're playing any type of late exotics, I think you should throw them both into like your pick 4s or pick 5s. So they're the 3 and the 5 in the replay of the race that we're watching right here. So
still think Stephanie's Charm should have won.
Oh, I know that. And they both, they had different sorts of trouble, like completely different. So watch the 3 who's sitting a little bit closer, and then the 5 who's going to come from the back. So the 3 right now in a pretty good spot, Isabel Alexandra, like exactly what you want, saving some ground from the inside just behind the leader. Watch where the 3 is right now, only about a length off. Now look at the 5 towards the back of the pack, who's already in tight and kind of backing up. So we can maybe sense the traffic that these horses are going to have to deal with. But if you're someone who bet the 3 like I did, Isabel Alexandra, you probably love where she is right now. She's traveling well. She's just behind the leaders. But the horse to the 2 path, watch what happens. In the horse in the white silks kind of pushes her back. And instead of being in that spot, now look where the 3 is. She was right behind the 1. And now instead of being in that second tier, she's all the way back to the 3rd flight. She bumps everybody back. It's sort of like a domino. The 5 got bumped back all the way off the screen. So we don't even see Stephanie's Charm right now. She's not even in the picture. Now look at Isabel Alexandra down there towards the inside. She's looking for room. She's got nowhere to go. She's waiting. Look at Barry's horse with the yellow cap at the back of the pack. Dead last in between horses. So the 3's buried right here with nowhere to go. Barry's horse isn't even on the screen. She's going to come flying. Now Isabel Alexandra, she sort of picks up her running. Once the 5 blows by her, she runs up onto the heels of the 11. Both of these poor horses had a lot going on in that race. I have no problem with either or both of them in any sort of your late exotics. Isabel is probably a little bit more tactical than Stephanie. She can probably get a little bit more of a jump, but this filly has ability. What I like for both of them is they both get
rider
jock
switches.
changes. right?
Yep.
So that tells you that their trainers felt the same way, like they didn't get the best of trips or maybe
Yeah,
change
that one
something
is
up.
not going to be on Junior Alvarado's highlight reel by any means
No,
because
no.
he was loaded. He had a horse. He could have been a lot closer than he was, and I think that's the idea of putting Jose Ortiz on.
Yep. And this is a fun race. Cairo Consort ran in the Breeders' Cup. And so, Matt, kind of like what we were just talking about, maybe a
Yep.
horse that is worth playing against this first time because maybe this filly, they're worried about maybe bigger 3-year-old races down the line. This probably isn't their end all be all. We need to win this race.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a horse that's coming out of 2 straight grade ones and is now running in a listed stakes race. So probably is not all the way cranked up. There was also a barn change coming off of a layoff. So there's a lot going on for Cairo Consort at 7-5. So I was, to be honest, I was going to give out the 5, Stephanie's Charm. I
Nice.
mean, because
Awesome.
that was the play that I thought kind of made the most sense. This was a horse 12-1 on the morning line, $750. That's all you're going to be spending there. And you saw that effort that was coming off of a not insignificant layoff, about a little over a 2-month layoff. And you'd expect just a better trip this time. Like I said, Jose's up on the mound, as you mentioned. This horse gets another progression, and she's absolutely right there. And this horse, you look at the turf works from back in November, and this horse likes getting on the turf. This should be pointed out that Jessamine and the Wait a While were the first 2 times this horse was ever on that surface.
She was
So,
wide chasing Delight, who got that
yep.
perfect trip, winning that race too. Like she just never had a shot in the Jessamine at all.
Exactly. And, it's funny that I wonder if she runs well again here. I wonder if she almost is going to start having this, I think it's a running son of a gun as a horse who always runs well, but somehow doesn't get respect on the morning line or in the on the post. And you're like, this horse, all this horse does is finish third in grade 1 races. Why is this horse 30-1 on the morning line? And so, she's still 12-1 on the morning line, which I think is a pretty big price considering how well she ran last time out. And if you can get that, I think she's real loaded for bear here. So I like Stephanie's Charm quite a bit.
Stephanie's Charm, shout out to Stephanie, who just walked out with Milo just a moment ago. So Stephanie's Charm, hope we can get the job done there. I think very, very alive in race number 9. So let's talk about the 11th though, Matt, because it's very relevant for the 3 of us, because the 3 of us were on a lock of the week last time out, the law professor lock that we always joke about. We were all aboard the number 6. It was the 6 Mooncat, who debuted on December the 24th. Now, a couple things about that race. First, we were expecting the race to be run on the turf, right? And Mooncat ran on the synthetic. What is nice about that was it kind of got the fitness race out of the way for Mooncat now, right? And it was going long first time out, which isn't easy. But I remember talking about Fanicola because her dam was a very nice horse on the turf. Fanicola, in fact, won the first time she was on the turf, and the first time she was on the turf going long, which is kind of the conditions of this race, going 7.5 on the turf. And then Fanicola ended up becoming a graded stakes winner, won the grade 2 Royal Heroine, just missed in the grade 1 Gamely. So Fanicola was classy. Fanicola also produced a winning turf sibling named Mary of Bethany. So we have the dam, who was classy. We have a winning turf sib. So there's lots of turf here. Now, when we go to look at the race, this was kind of a sneaky trouble trip.
It was.
Mooncat. You and I, we were all
texting about it. We were all in our DMs about, this one, and just a troubled trip the whole way around. And again, much like when we were talking about the jockey change last time.
So look at the 3 in this race you're watching.
Yep. You want to watch the 3 and now picks up Irad.
Right there, boom. You already take up. And now
you're already up.
You're about 3 or 4 lengths in a different position.
Yep.
Right. They would have been where the 2 is.
Yep. Ideally, you're where the 2 is. Yep.
Being where the 3 is right now, behind a whole nother flight of horses. And remember, this is your first time out of the box going long on a surface that you weren't expecting or hoping for.
Right. And we should notice that she ran dynamite works on the turf leading up to this race. And
Yep.
we were all kind of overwhelmed by that 57-4, 5 furlong bullet work right before this race. And so you're right. Like the intent was get her on the turf, and it was also clearly this horse has a ton of speed. So the fact that she's sitting third flight is like not really indicative of of the sort of speed that she probably is able to show. But
And
yeah, now
the
she's
winner of
sitting
this
like,
race, due to
Yeah.
Colorado, goes gate to wire. There's no
Yep.
passing in this race. So the race is, she has some trouble. She's dealing with some traffic right
Now
now.
she's
So
wide.
now she's in
Yeah.
traffic and she's in the two path kind of moving through. So now she wants to go, she gets stopped. So after she's trying to go right now,
Yep, she
and
wants
she has
to.
nowhere to go. By the time she moves to the inside and gets a little bit of room, well, yeah, now her best run has been dulled and she's been chasing a lone speed horse here. This is a sneaky good effort from a filly that I expect, or from Miguel Colt, he's 3, to be a lot closer. I've said she a couple times.
Yeah, I know.
Mooncat.
I did
It's,
too. Yeah.
It's he for sure. I mean, he's right up into third and then just gets slightly out finished for fourth late in this race. We were all kind of sitting on this horse for when he returned, and I'm definitely going to be used. This is in that pick 5 that we talked about, that cross country pick 5.
Yeah.
I will no doubt have one pick 5 ticket where I single. this one.
Single.
Yeah. And now you pick up Irad, and this is from a stable duel standpoint. This horse is going to take money because Irad's on board.
And this is a fine horse to use in stable duel too. It's not
absolutely $7,000. It's not going to break the bank, and it's a horse that's probably going to go up at like 5-2 or something like
Absolutely.
that. And so you're saving money in some way. You're getting a horse that is going off at post time that would be $8,500 for $7,000 or something like that. So just wanted to bring attention to that horse because we had talked about it before and is now running again. And sometimes when those horses have that bad trip, you got to run it back. And so that's what we're doing with Stephanie's Charm. That's what we're doing with Mooncat. Got to run them back.
Sometimes things are meant to be, you know. Sometimes you can kind of feel fate. Other times it's not, and you're just like, oh, well, I was just wrong. And I started
Right. Sometimes,
I was looking at that coast to coast pick 5, yesterday, and I was going through some of the races, and the first 2 races I looked at for Gulfstream were races 9 and 11, and they were the horses that had the Isabel horse and the Stephanie's Charm horse.
Oh yeah.
Who I looked at and was like, okay, I'm using both of them. And then the next race was this horse with Mooncat, who I'm like, oh wow. So these are all horses that were on our radar, had trouble trips last time, and sometimes it's almost like it's slapping you right in the face when you come back again, and they're right there for you. So hopefully in a couple of these spots at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, we can get a fairer trip with these horses. That's all we ask for, right? I actually love as a gambler where I can be like, my horse got a great trip and wasn't good enough. It's easy to move on from. I don't get bitter. I have no sour taste in my mouth afterwards. It's like, oh, just wrong. Move on.
Yeah,
to the next
I
one.
think I've DM'd you a couple of times. Like, yeah, they were in the right spot. The horse just didn't run.
Yep, and it's easy.
And yeah,
that's not when we throw up all those different gifs and memes afterwards, where we're like, "What the hell's going on?" That's just to wipe our hands and move right along. And that's what we're gonna do now as we move along to Santa Anita for Saturday. On a big Saturday at Santa Anita, not only is it going to be part of the Coast to Coast Pick 6, they mentioned it's going to be a mandatory payout in the Rainbow Pick 6 on Saturday at Santa Anita. It's also a Cal Cup Stakes day where they have some of the Sunshine Millions stakes and a couple of the Cal Cup stakes on the card. And the Santa Anita Pick'em contest are back. They're free to enter at pick'em.santanita.com. So lots of things happening over at Santa Anita on Saturday. Barry's going to look at races 6 and 9. Matt's going to get things started, though, in race number 1 right off the bat. I'm also going to throw in a stable dual play right off the bat, Matt. So let us know who you're looking at in the opener at Santa Anita on Saturday.
Yeah, and we'll just mention from a stable duel standpoint, there's a $5 contest that's a single entry contest and a $100 contest at Santa Anita on Saturday. So race number 1 is one of these races from a stable duel standpoint that can be a mess because you have 2 overwhelmingly heavy favorites in Big City Lights, who's 8-5 in the morning line and would cost you $9,400. And you also have the number 4, the Chosen Vron, who is 4-5 and would cost you $11,000. The problem is these are 2 very good horses, and newsflash, both of them can't win.
Yeah.
So it's always dicey to kind of go, am I really going to spend $9,200, $11,000 on a second or third place horse? Like, that's a terrible proposition.
Yep.
And so what I like to do is usually attack a big price here. So I went to the number 6.
Oh, you and me, man. We're
Are we on the
Yep.
So this just feels like a very obvious stable duel play that
Yeah.
even if you want to pair up the 6 with, maybe you really like the Classic Brawn, maybe you really like, or the Chosen Brawn, or Big City Lights, maybe you really like those, but Resilient is 15 to 1, only going to cost you $500. Gino, you and I always like to use the phrase, this horse has done nothing wrong. This
Yep.
horse has just gone out and won over some really nice races. Now, granted, it's stepping up in class.
Year layoff in
Exactly.
his, and that's the only race he lost. He came back. He won that race. He
Yeah.
lost his first start back after that. But
Yep.
horses don't run that well off of that type of layoff. He's
Yeah.
got ability, right? And he's
absolutely.
just had some issues along the way. He's a 6-year-old who's only run 4 times.
Absolutely. And this is a horse that has shown that kind of steady improvement and is a horse that is 2 for 2 at 6 furlongs. This is a horse that draws the outside post and should stalk the entire way. Does not want to be on the lead, nor should he be on the lead, but will probably sit off of Big City Lights, will probably sit off of the Chosen Brawn. And if those two wear each other out, fantastic. And then can go. But I think this 6 is absolutely going to kind of jump up and capture some points. And from a stable duel standpoint, feels like a very safe play for a big long shot. We always talk about finding those big prices out at Santa Anita sometimes. And so being able to get a 15 to 1 horse that I think is going to bring you some positive points, I think makes a lot of sense.
Resilient, we're both on like a lot of the things that you were pointing out, Matt. I mean, this horse should just get a perfect trip drawn to the outside. Is he good enough? We don't know, but this is a great spot to take a shot. He should fall into a really nice trip. And in a stable duel situation, like you said, I would much rather spend this horse at the 15 to 1 price on the morning line than the 4 to 5 or the 8 to 5 here on Big City Lights and the Chosen Brawn. Big City Lights actually might be better going a little shorter here than the Chosen Brawn. The Chosen Brawn's never been shorter than 6.5 furlongs in his entire career. And Resilient is very honest. I actually like the horse Holiday Arousal later in the card. That Resilient.
Funny, I do too, actually.
in race number 9, who's the number 7. So we can do a little 2-for-1 shopping right in this race here as you start the Saturday card with the big price in race number 1 for myself and for Matt. So I will move to race number 4. Matt has the 5th, Barry has the 6th. So for me, the 4th race will be going down the hill, and I'm looking towards the number 5 4 Flag. Now, he's just 1 for 15 overall, but I love horses that kind of have this sort of template, or horses that don't win a whole lot and then they come down the hill. Sometimes it's because they're just trying to find that perfect style course for them or where they fit the best. And if you look at 4 Flag, 4 Flag's not really a sprinter. He has a couple sprint races, and the problem is the only 2 races he sprinted are at tracks where it really wouldn't play very well to him anyways. He debuted sprinting on the synthetic at Arlington, and then his only other sprint race came going 6.5, but it wasn't the downhill 6.5. It was that straight 6.5 at Santa Anita. That plays way more to speed. It's really hard to close on that straight 6.5 turf at Santa Anita. Down the hill, you can absolutely close. That's a very fair turf course, and it actually plays really well to horses cutting back. That's why I like 4 Flag, whose last couple races, they've shown speed going longer. He broke his maiden, finally put it all together on October the 9th, and the runner-up that day came right back to win in their next start. And then last time out, he was behind Doc Adams, who we'll actually see a little bit later on in the card. And Doc Adams is really sharp right now. Doc Adams has won 4 consecutive races and has won, I think, 5 of the last 7 races, just in really, really nice form. So I like the races that 4 Flag is coming out of. I like the turn back. I think there's some versatility there for this horse. I think they'll try to get a little more speed into him, but he can absolutely come from off the pace and pass horses. Johnny V jumps aboard. 4 Flag, cutting back down the hill. I like the number 5 in here, who is 5 to 1 on the morning line. That'll cost you $6,000 in your stable dual lineup. honest, versatile. He's been in the money in 8 of his 14. And so even if he doesn't win this race, Matt, as you point out, when we're building our stable dual lineups, this is a horse who's shown that he doesn't need the lead. He can come from off the pace. He has different ways to get involved and to get in the mix here.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is a horse. It's funny. I just posted my capping the card, which I do on, which is for Saturday at Santa Anita, and Four Flag is absolutely one of the horses I talked about in this race, because I think this is a nice value play, 5-1 on the morning line, and a horse that I know it took a long while to break through, to break its maiden, but sometimes horses we talk about this a lot. Once they win, it kind of becomes something they get used to a little bit. And so I definitely like Four Flag there in race 4.
And then you are right next door in race number 5, right? Maiden 50
I
claimer
am.
on the dirt.
Yeah, you give me a good maiden claimer, I'm there. So this is 6 furlongs on the dirt, maiden claimer 50 for 3-year-old state breds. And I'm going to go to the far outside again. I'm going to go to number 7, Charbonneau. At 12-1 on the morning line. This is a horse that, we talk about this a lot. Every race makes sense in this horse's career. First time out, open company on the synthetic at Golden Gate. It's a debut. It's probably not the preferred surface and doesn't run that great. Second time out, goes to Losal, switches surfaces, runs a 56 buyer, and almost wins that race.
Yep. At 45-1.
At 45-1 at a huge price. Then, based upon that effort, steps up in class, goes to Del Mar, and runs in a maiden 82.
And that was that strong
52.
maiden special race that we already looked at, remember? Because I liked Montana, who was also in that race, who finished right behind your horse.
Exactly. And so you're going to go against really big competition. Something clearly went wrong in that race. Maybe the horse just kind of tweaked itself, but goes to the bench from July until December, then comes back and kind of just gets a leg stretching effort at 6 furlongs and kind of breaks off some of the rust. And that's perfectly fine. And now you're second back from the layoff. This horse, that 56 buyer, is absolutely good enough to win in this race. I mean, you look at the favorite, King Zog. I think the best buyer speed figure this horse has had is a 53. Stay in the Game, who's 5-2. Best speed figure there's a 55. So that 56 at Losal. Now, maybe Losal is a little bit of an anomaly, but still, this horse, I think, showed some ability that day and is dropping down in class with this maiden claiming 50. I just think Charbonneau at 12-1, only $750, makes a lot of sense in this spot, running against this level of competition.
This was actually my top pick in this race too, and I thought about giving this one. So we're really seeing very similar things because, like all that you mentioned, second start off the 4.5 month layoff, you move from the inside to the outside, you drop in class, you get Lasix for the first time. Should be forwardly placed and sit a nice trip in there. Yeah, Charbonneau, because he said just all these races that we attack, who scares you in this race? You have King Zog, who's been your beaten favorite 4 times. Yeah. And you have Stay in the Game, who's like almost the same type of horse, who was actually behind King Zog a couple races before. And the first time starter there's 2 of them that they're okay. Like they wouldn't shock, but there's nothing that really gets my blood boiling all that much.
There isn't either, especially considering the 4 and the 6, the 2 favorites have been running at this level before and not being able to get the job done. It's one thing if they're dropping down and you go, okay, well, they're dropping down from some $100,000 maiden claimer at, Keeneland and coming out here, and okay, that makes sense. But, they've been running in this maiden 50 circuit for a while and, finishing underneath and doing fine. But like you said, nothing that scares you at all.
Yeah, the 5 is the one that caught my eye in here, and I almost went to that horse as one of my plays, just because I think the trainer's going to have that one ready, and there's not a whole
you don't have to be much
in here, to beat. But this is a tough race. I would never ever recommend the favorite here or even the second choice. So after you get by those 2 horses, it's up for grabs.
And what's nice with DRF, you can just within a few clicks, you click just to show everyone if you're watching and you want to see how we navigate that. When you click on the trainer right there, it'll take you to a database that you can formulate with statistics and you can customize. So you click to customize in the options. These are all the different categories you can go through. So if you want to see how a barn does with first-time starters, you click days between starts, you click first-time starters, and then you apply the filters. Now, what I like is that this is a barn that used to struggle a little bit more with first-time starters, but what ended up happening is when some of the Baffert runners for a little while, when Baffert was suspended, some of those horses came to this barn, the Sean McCarthy barn. And so he got to start a little bit better horses. And what happens? You can get a couple winners. You know what I mean? Like, isn't it amazing how all of a sudden, you get Midnight Memories who wins, you get Fun to Dream, and look at those horses. Right? Look at Midnight Memories. That's a multiple graded stakes winner who is now in the Baffert barn, but started for McCarthy. Look at Fun to Dream. Fun to Dream just won the grade 1 La Brea and started for McCarthy and won first time out. So this is a barn that with the right stock, they can absolutely get a horse to win first time out. They just had a lot of years where they weren't getting that kind of stock, So
and there's been a lot of buzz that, Baffert obviously is going to have to make some changes again this year with that 2-year-old or that now 3-year-old crop because the suspension at Churchill is still in effect.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of talk that instead of going to Yakteen, that a lot of these horses are going to end up going to McCarthy in all likelihood this year instead, because of exactly to your point, because of the success he had with this stock last year.
They can show, look, he did it. He got these horses ready. They transitioned perfectly over. There was no problem. And good stuff for Sean. We'll see if he can get the job done with Uncle Walt. Barry wants to head right next door down the hill for the Sunshine Million Filly and Mare Terp Sprint. Barry, talk to us about who you're looking at in this 6th race.
Yeah, so, this is a race that's kind of similar to the one that you went over, Gino. There's a lot of hard-knocking horses in this race that love going down the hill. I ended up on number 7, Bella D. Basically because I think this horse is kind of rounding into form, even though, I'm going to put a disclaimer on this. This horse hasn't been out since June, but I think this horse does very, very well off a layoff. You can see last year from January 2nd to April 3rd, win going down the hill. And I just think this horse is going to get a good trip. There's quite a bit of speed. I would hope that nobody wants the 6 Taming the Tigress to get away from everybody. That being said, you have the 2, I can't even pronounce that, so I'll just say the eye chart horse.
Yeah. La de moi et toi.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. What he said.
The Frankie Dettori horse.
Yeah. That one is, the 2 wins that you see on the page, both wire to wire.
And that, honestly, those 2 horses that you mentioned, those are the 2 that I'll definitely be using, because my only concern in this race is that there isn't that much speed, right? Like those 2 that you mentioned, the 2 and the 7 might be horses that could be forwardly placed in here. But I do like what you're saying about the 7, because one other point, the hill is the perfect place to come off the layoff because it's downhill. A lot of your running, you're not even running. It's gravity is sending you down the hill already.
I know that when I start working out for the first time, I always love running downhill. Right? I like biking downhill. It's so much easier.
Go up the steps, or you see people, they're doing the stands at the local high school. I like to go down the hill, right? That just gets my momentum built up a little bit better. And you see it a lot of the time. It's not as taxing on a horse.
No, it isn't. And you see a lot of horses do that come back down the hill first time out, and it's a kinder race in that regard. The one I think just didn't draw well.
I agree.
And that helps out everybody else. It's tough to work out a trip from the one spot going down the hill like this, because you take that, that first kind of right-hand turn, and then you come back, and
I don't think he's
just
quite
a tough trip.
She doesn't seem like she's fast enough to flee it either. You got to have a lot of speed to just go, and maybe you can get away from it. But if they ask her for a lot of speed early, I don't think that's best for her, right? That won't be best for her. So this is a fun race. This is
it definitely is. And I think that that Bella D is going to be launching. I mean, if you look at her
Yep.
past performances, a lot of the times, you know, she does what closers do and they get into trouble. But recently she's been angling out wide, which is fine with me, you
Yep.
know, because there may be a situation where this horse can kind of save a little bit of ground going through like the S turn and then kind of launch and you know, I'm gonna give this one a shot because you know this race, these kind of races tend to go different ways because there's no real standouts here. They all kind of run the same numbers, and you know, I just think this one might have a little bit of an edge coming off the layoff. You see the steady work tab from November 26th to December 30th, which I love, and then the horse has 2 wins at the distance, so that's enough for me.
And keep an eye on the price because, you know, we see Taming the Tigress right here. Bella D is right there with Taming the
Every
Tigress, right?
time.
So you don't want, like, I like Taming the Tigress, but if Bella D is like 10, 12 to 1, and for some reason Taming the Tigress gets bet a little bit and is, you know, 4 to 1, then make sure you're looking where the value comes. Also, keep in mind these last 3 races for Bella D against Open Company, including
True
a
that.
win against First Level Allowance Company, then against Legs Galore, and then on June the 18th, look at who she lost to last time out. That's Amy C. Amy C came back to win the Grade 3 Las Cienegas on opening, not on opening day, but just a few days ago on January the 2nd. So coming out of good races, also lots of things to like about Barry's play. Bella D, the number 7, who is 8 to 1 in race number 6. We continue along on the Saturday card over at Santa Anita. Where are we headed next? Matt, you've got one in the 7th, right? The Cal Cup Derby.
No, I'm in the 10th.
Oh, you're in the 10th. Okay,
I'm in
Matt,
the 10th, and Barry's in the
race 10,
9th, I think.
And Barry's in race 9. I am going to go to race number, I'll go right next door to the 7th where we were talking before, and that's the Cal Cup Derby. Now, the 2, Pasarondo, will take a lot of money. Very logical horse. Honest horse. The 4, Give Her Not a Taker, will also take some money. He hasn't really done much wrong. Put a line through the turf race. He stumbled badly when he lost to Pasarondo, and other than that, he has 3 wins. The horse who I actually like is drawn to the outside. It's the number 7, Geezer. Now, Geezer had 3 consecutive wins. They were all pretty good. What I like, he showed speed, and then he showed that he can sit off. Then they stretched out. They went long for the first time on December the 18th. He's in that same race with Give Her Not a Taker and Crypto Ride, but he's the 2 in this race. And watch what ends up happening that I think kind of impacts him quite a bit. So right here, the 3, at one point, the 3 is going to lose the rider. And so watch the 2 who's sitting right behind. That's Geezer in here. Geezer kind of had a little bit of traffic early on. And right here, he's just behind the leaders going into the turn. Geezer is sitting just behind, not in a bad spot, but right here, a little bit of traffic. He's just kind of waiting. The jock drops on the 3 there. So now Geezer inherits the lead. But watch what happens. The 3 ends up becoming a loose horse, a runoff. So now the 2's got to sort of navigate the 3 here all the time. He's got to wait to see what's happening because the 3's to the inside of him. The 8's kind of got him pinned. You'll even notice they're looking over their shoulder the entire time like, okay, what am I going to do? Look at the 3 slow back down now. He's right up in front of him. He can't go to the inside of this riderless horse. He doesn't really know what to do. He just has to wait. And it doesn't really say this a whole lot in the comment lines. And he's even right here, the way you're looking at the 2 on the bottom screen, you can't really see that the 3's in front of him. You know, so there were a lot of things that were kind of deceiving there. Then the 1, Give Her Not a Taker, gets up the rail and he kind of gets really determined. But Geezer is still trying right here. He's still trying. And remember, this is that long stretch run at Los Alamitos. I thought that was a pretty good effort from him. I thought it was a kind of deceivingly good race. Now, remember, that was his first start going long also. And in this race, it looks like it's him and the 1 as the 2 speeds. And the 1, his only race was 4.5 furlongs back in May. If this horse can win going 1 mile and a 16th in his second start off of that long of a layoff, I mean, he's going to beat me. Like that's a lot to ask for this type of horse. I think Geezer gets a really nice trip from the outside. He's either on the lead or sitting just off. We know he can sit off. He had that race last time out, kind of muffled him up with the loose horse. I like the 7 Geezer. He's 5-1 on the morning line. He'll only cost us 6,000 in our stable dual lineup there. Geezer for me in the Cal Cup Derby. And keep in mind, this is the race that California Chrome won a few years back before they put him in with Open Company. I believe they moved him into San Felipe after he crushed in the Cal Cup Derby. And in the San Felipe, it was supposed to be Bayern against California Chrome. And Bayern was going to be favored in that race over California Chrome. Bayern had just won like by 20 lengths in a first level allowance prep, but Bayern ended up getting hurt. So California Chrome ends up going in that race as a heavy favorite, and he crushes. And it's funny the way things happen, because you wonder, like, if Bayern was in that race and he beats California Chrome at that point, does California Chrome become Chrome right away? Does it take a little while longer for him? Do they maybe think, oh, we didn't beat this horse in Open Company? Who knows? But it's sort of funny the way history plays itself out. And then later on that year, Bayern's healthy. He takes everybody out in the Breeders' Cup Classic, and he goes on. And so history was made in the Cal Cup Derby years back. Let's see if one of these horses might be.
Gotta wonder if the comment maker is sandbagging this.
I know, right? Because I was like, hey,
how do you not mention that?
At least like
the trouble,
that, right? The horse was he really had nothing to do. It's like you usually see impeded by loose horse or something like that.
Yeah.
Like in that comment line. And maybe it wasn't like fully impeded, so that's where they could get away with it. But yeah, it was
pretty obvious.
Yeah, pretty tricky there. And that was in race number 7 for Saturday at Santa Anita. So we're going to finish up right now with the end of the Saturday card at Santa Anita. Matt has race number 10. Barry is looking at race number 9, I believe. So let's go to the 9th race first. Barry, talk to us about race number 9.
All right, it's a optional claimer, state breds, going a mile on the main track. Now, I'm gonna tell you how I arrived at this pick. It was by attrition, because I did not like anyone else in this race, and I landed on the horse that had the least knocks, and that was number 2, Mr. T's Thirsty. Now, if you go through everybody else, you know, the one, I know cash flow, speed. His best races have been on the lead, has won twice, 3 times, 2 times on the lead. The other was a maiden, so you can, you know, make of that what you will. I think this horse is a speed horse. The 3, no longer a hobby. Another one that needs to be up close early.
And stretching out from 5.5 to a mile.
Correct.
So they'll definitely be.
He's definitely going to be on the engine. Darner Lake, a horse that is probably a turf horse that's in a dirt race. His best efforts by far have been on the turf. So whether he wants to go to the lead, sure, whatever. Doesn't matter to me. I don't think this horse has a shot. Big Talker, dead closer, going to be too far back. Holiday Arousal, speed horse. You see his effort on June 5th, 2022 at Golden Gate on the synthetic. Wants to go to the lead. All his other subsequent races, close to the pace, within 2 lengths every time. Leia's Candy, another one that needs to be up top.
Yep.
And has to go from that outside post. So I think this pace is going to heat up, and it just leaves Mr. T's Thirsty. The only one that isn't going to be too far back, and he's almost, you know, just the lone stalker. And I think he sits a great trip, second off a layoff, ran a decent race, you know, first time out in a while, fits at this level for sure. And I think it's just go time.
And we've talked about Mr. T before, because I remember when we dived into WWE and WWF and like the Rock and Wrestling connection.
Rocky 3.
And I always think about there's this
Mother's Day song.
The Mother's Day song. And there's this funny episode of Friends when Joey buys Chandler a bracelet, like a man bracelet.
Oh,
It was when
yes.
Joey starts to make all the money, and Chandler just hates it. It's this like off. It says "to my best bud" on it, and there. Remember, there's this one part where Chandler's like, "How come he bought me this thing from the Mr. T reject collection? I pity the fool who wears my jewelry. I pity the fool." And he's just doing the Mr. T, and Joey walks in, and he's like watching him, and he's like, "Joey, do your Marcel Marceau." Oh, that's actually pretty good. And Joey walks away. The tangents that you get on, and Mr. T's thirsty. Mr. T, we pity the fool who does not play. Mr. T's thirsty at 10-1 in their stable duel lineups on Saturday over at Santa Anita. But it's going to be Maddie who closes us out in the Unusual Heat Turf Classic, which is race number 10 for Saturday. Matt, so talk to us about how we're going to close out the card on Saturday at Santa Anita.
Yeah, we're going on a turf for a mile and a quarter, for a mile and an eighth, I should say, in the Turf Classic. And I'll see Barry's 10-1 and raise you a 15-1. So I'm going to go to the number 6, Bang for Your Buck. And this is a horse that I really like. This horse has 3 races from over this summer and fall that it can absolutely run back to, and I think make a real dent in this particular race. You'll see those 3 races: the August 6th, the September 10th, and the October 8th race. Those were 3 really outstanding efforts. 2 of those against Open Company, and if you notice that August 6th race at Del Mar, a mile and a 16th in a state bred $152,000 stakes race, and finished ahead behind Carmelita's Man. Carmelita's Man's 2-1 in this field.
And what's your horse done since then? Run 3 times against Open Company.
Yeah.
One of those races was against Prince Obama.
Exactly.
Who is a graded stakes winner who won the grade 2 starts back and then got in a little bit of trouble last time out, but is legitimately a graded stakes caliber horse.
Yep.
The other race
was
got in legitimate trouble.
Yeah,
against Percolate and got in legitimate trouble last time out. And this third, the one in between on October the 8th, was 4th, was beaten a half length and was like shifting around and didn't have the smoothest trip. Those are 3 all fine races in a row since the runner-up effort to Carmelita's Man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think this horse makes a lot of sense at 15-1. Again, we talk about trying to find those inexpensive horses at Santa Anita so that you can use favorites in different spots. You know, if you think that there's just super logical choices, and $500 in stable duel, this horse just doesn't really run many bad races. I mean, even just looking in overall, this horse is 11 for 19 in the money. And this horse is 5 for 9 at Santa Anita on the turf. So this horse runs right there. And like you said, there's a couple of races where finishes 4th, but does so like right up there, right on the lead, basically by 4th. So I just think Bang for Your Buck is a horse that has nice tactical speed, doesn't need to be on the lead or anything like that, but can be close, and still has enough left in the tank to make a decent closing kick. So I think this horse makes a ton of sense. And the other thing I like is, if you notice that Calbred race that against Carmelita's Man, that was off Lasix. And so this is a horse that doesn't need to have Lasix to run well. That's something which I always like to try to pay attention to. Sometimes when horses are in these types of spots where maybe they've run in Lasix up to this point, now this is their first time not doing it, that sort of thing. So 15-1, Bang for Your Buck, $500. That's where I'm going to be playing to close out the card on Saturday at Santa Anita.
Young Bucks are one of the best tag teams in pro wrestling. They're for AEW, and that's one of their moves is the Bang for Your Buck, one of their big finishing moves. I'm actually going Wednesday night to AEW at the Forum. My buddy and I, which will be fun because they don't come out west very often. So I'll be heading out Wednesday night to the old Great Western Forum, which is being redone, to watch some AEW wrestling. And that will be next Wednesday. But next Friday, you'll have us all right back here again, 7 o'clock Pacific time, 10 o'clock Eastern time. We'll have Gulfstream. We'll have Santa Anita. We'll have a lot of fun. We'll get off on some tangents. You'll get to see the beautiful faces of Matt DeSantis and Barry Spears and whatever I'm dealing with over here, which is sometimes a lot of hair. But I got the trimmed up at the moment right now. Fellas, again, I always love this is a great start to my weekend, a great start to my Friday. After talking with both of you, I feel like now I'm ready to go put my stable duel lineups in. I'm ready to
Absolutely.
go like finalize my wagers, put my pick fours and my pick fives in. You know, we've done the talking it out process now. What I want over the next 4 months, we want to definitely get all of you out there involved a little bit more in the show. We'd love to hear more from you. So we'll start trying to incorporate some contests where we can have some giveaways where you guys can give us your best bets on the day and maybe a best bet for Friday for Gulfstream or for Saturday. We want to see if you can help share the show around, tag your friends that you know will enjoy these races and that might be looking at Santa Anita and at Gulfstream. We'll always dive into the DRF past performances. And some weeks, some days, we'll win a bunch, some will lose a bunch. We can't always guarantee you a lock that's going to win, but I can guarantee you we will always give you fantastic information. We're always going to be here prepared. We're always going to have really good reasoning for why we like these horses, and we're always going to be taking big swings. So consistency is something that I love, I look for, I strive for in content. We will be here with you every Friday over the next 4 months, and you know what you're going to get from us at Gulfstream and at Santa Anita. We'll take prices, we'll take shots. We truly want to help you out, and I can vouch for both Matt and Barry. If you ever have a question about something that one of us has said, if you ever want to reach out and ask a question, I know all of us would love to interact with any of you out there and help you out in any way. And I'm sure you can help us out in some ways too. So fellas, let's have a fantastic weekend. I look forward to talking to you again over the next couple days, going back and forth. Hopefully we're not complaining about the tough beats on some of our horses and we're sharing the excitement. Yeah. So for Matt DeSantis, for Barry Spears, I'm Gino Bucola. And we say hello to the final member of our crew. It's Joey Cleveland and the soothing sounds of Joey Cleveland with This Weekend in Stable Duel.
Better, you want to spread your pony knowledge wide. Oh, better, I got a place where winning ain't tough to do. You wanna be cool, stable duel. Your horse racing fantasy come true.